This section is about tonics. They're defined as agents that stimulate the system. And you can do that by relieving stress on the system, therefore you release energy, or by supporting the energy systems within physiology. At a cell level, these would be the action Duracell packed batteries, or by supporting the digestive system, supporting the thyroid, and supporting the circulation to the brain. So that's how they're generally organized. So to refer to the slide, the detox tea improves elimination and therefore improves energy left in the system to run more efficiently. And included in a detox tonic would be the Essiac Tea. And the Essiac Tea is commonly used according to anecdotal evidence, which is kind of word of mouth and not established within research practice. But it is used by people who have breast cancer or are surviving breast cancer. The history of it is that it is named after Renee Case, which is the Essiac spelt backwards. This was a nurse midwife in Canada who learned this eliminatory supportive tea from the first American peoples in the Canadian frontier times. And she recovered apparently from breast cancer. So I can support the use of Essiac tea, not as a cancer treatment, but as a tea which will improve elimination and support and nourish the tissues, particularly of the digestive tract. So detox tea and Essiac tea would fit into that category. Stimulating circulatory support would be the Hearty Tea and the concentration study, and we've recently named it also the memory tea. Supporting the digestive tract would be, and therefore cleansing through the bile, but also including circulatory stimulants would be the bitters. So the bitters are very good for people who need more energy because they have a generally sluggish system. They're often sluggish digestion in particular. And people who are prone to overeating rich foods or taking too much alcohol. So cleansing and stimulation by way of bile and digestive tract. More what we would often think of as an energy support tonic would be things like bladderwrack, which are in the energy support blend. And these are more supportive and tonic in general by way of the hormone system. People who have exceeded their energy because of the volume of things that they're engaged in or the different levels of engagement. For instance, people who are doing reports at work or studying, doing complicated analysis and reports for work, who are then going home to look after small children or elderly people, or people who are high energy and motivation in a sports arena, who have bursts of energy and then work in a sedentary job. So people who are constantly going from one energy level to another energy level would also need the energy support blend. So anybody who has adrenal debility, either because of the complexity of their energy demand or the volume of their energy demands. And in this day and age, it's more often that people are having a problem because they're functioning on so many different levels, combined with the long hours of the day due to electric light and the complexity of modern life. So they're the people who need adrenal support, thyroid support, and for them it's the energy support blend that would be most useful. So for the detox tea, this is a very simple tea, but it does everything that you need a detox to do. Really, there's no point in doing a detox if you don't reduce your complex, rich foods and alcohol, because the first form of detox is to simplify the foods that are provided for you to digest so that the body can use that digestive energy in order to improve elimination. Stopping sugar, 7 fruit and veg a day, the essential fatty acids, and generally clearing up your act regarding smoking and alcohol is the first element of detox, and then you add in the detox tea. So cleavers are very good, as we said, for draining lymph. Dandelion supports liver enzymes and the production and flow of bile. Dandelion leaf has some overlapping action with the root, and the root has with the leaf, but the main emphasis of the dandelion leaf is on improving elimination through the kidneys. Red clover is a hormone balancing herb. We're not quite sure how. It doesn't fit into any of the hormone profiles. And it also is an eliminator by way of the lymph. And in order to get the lymph from the tissues, particularly in the lower limbs, it is very important to exercise. So exercising, particularly the large muscles in the lower legs, is an important element of detoxing. So more exercise. It doesn't have to be overly stimulated exercise, walking on a regular basis, standing at work in order to do any kind of administrative tasks. Gentle exercise, but making sure that you engage the lower limb muscles. So the detox tea is a very gentle but firm detox. You would use it over about 6 weeks. I generally recommend combining it with the Carol Vorderman 28-day detox diet, which is available on the website under leaflets as a download. So the actions and herbs within the energy support blend include bladderwrack, which is a nutrient for thyroid function. It's a blood tonic, it's an adaptogen, and it stimulates the circulation of lymph. It's a source of fibre and minerals such as iron and vitamin B12. I'm commonly asked whether bladderwrack can be used by people who are borderline thyroid or who are on thyroid medication. Certainly it would be well indicated for people with borderline thyroid because it provides nutrient for more effective use of the thyroid function that is happening. And as a blood tonic and all of the other actions, it supports the function of the thyroid gland in a more general way. If somebody is on L-troxin, the dose of bladderwrack included in the energy support blend would fit in with food amounts of seaweed. So it's not necessarily a contraindication. But what I would suggest is that if somebody starts to use the bladderwrack energy support blend while they're on L-troxin, that about 6 weeks after they start the blend, that they would have a thyroid function test done to make sure they are still within the usual range for their thyroid analysis. So it's a nutrient form of iodine and nutrients for effective thyroid function in a very small dose. Burdock we've talked about before. As you can imagine, if you remove the encumbrance between the extracellular space, in the extracellular space, that you clear the system and the energy flows better, the vibration is more vibrant, is probably the best word. And the burdock is very good for energy because of that. The cleavers, again, emphasizing the removal of the lymph and dandelion root, we've talked about a lot. As you can see, it's one of my favorite herbs. Very few people leave my clinic without dandelion root in the prescription. That would be the exception rather than the rule. Nettle leaf, again, elimination through the kidneys. I also describe the energy of the nettle. Nettles and herbs in general, they're not just a summation of the constituents and the physiological actions. The nutrition in nettles includes metals, as in iron, but also other minerals from deep in the soil. The nettle root doesn't just pick out the metal and go, I'll only have just that one. It will also pick out all of the other minerals associated with iron deep in the soil. But in an energetic sense, I have heard from traditional herbalists that nettle is also good for mettle, as in mettle, or courage, that it's particularly good for procrastination and for energizing, particularly going from winter into spring, which is when the fresh nettles come up. We also have to include some of the energetic associations and understanding and knowledge of the herbs. And I find that nettle is a particularly good one to describe those associations. Siberian ginseng, again, is a performance adaptogen, so it doesn't exceed the energy available within the system, unlike Korean ginseng or American ginseng. So Siberian ginseng is particularly good for people affected by poor adrenal effect. It's not that there's an illness or a disease in the adrenal gland, it's that the adrenal gland seems to be exerted too often, too frequently, rather than in its appropriate use of the fight and flight reaction. Siberian ginseng also offers immunostimulation, which is important if one is debilitated, vitamin E, beta carotene, and it also has an antiviral effect. So the energy support blend is particularly good for people who have debility from ongoing stress, which may be from the volume of performance for which the energy is required. And it also has an eliminatory capacity. It also helps with the kidneys and the liver and the lymph and a general background of encumbrance which can occur from overstimulation of systems over a long period of time. So the concentration and study tea, it's a very pleasant tasting tea, very good for the memory, very good for the over 55s. It's a gentle tonic support. The ginger is stimulating for the peripheral circulation and the digestion. Siberian ginseng for performance energy. Gotu kola is an Ayurvedic herb, good for the aging process, good for mobilizing resources, good for brain circulation, and good for stress. Lemon balm is particularly good for stress and benefits the digestive tract in particular. Licorice is an adaptogen herb. Rosemary improves the circulation to the brain, and it is commonly associated with memory, as in rosemary for remembrance. And valerian is well studied as an anxiolytic. Many people find focus and concentration and memory difficult because of anxiety. The anxiety filters the knowledge or blocks the knowledge from actually being absorbed into the brain, which can also happen if you just have too busy a brain. There's too many things going on in your brain, and it's a real struggle if you're studying something or trying to remember shopping lists and things to do and that kind of thing. So if you're stressed, it makes memory more difficult. Hearty tea is a very good central circulatory tea. It's very good in an energetic sense for people who are disheartened, heavy-hearted, grieving, or just generally disenchanted or having a very difficult time in life. Physiologically, it supports the central blood pressure and the effectiveness of the heart as it beats minute by minute. And we have to remember how wonderful the heart is, and it is the source of all electrical activity within the heart. So the vibrational energy of the heart is very important. When the vibrational energy in the body is down, we often feel downhearted. So the lime flowers are herbs that promote sweating. They promote loss of fluid through the kidney. They lower cholesterol, good for anxiety, good for lowering blood pressure if it's high, a mild sedative effect and antispasmodic, and also good as a mucous membrane tonic. So for anybody who is stressed, that leads to things like asthma or hay fever even, that is promoted by a background of stress, the lime flowers are very nice. They're a very nice herb to use for children. They're a very gentle herb, very pretty with a very nice smell. Grows on the lime flower tree or the linden tree, and very, very nice. Hawthorn is a heart restorative. It's an antispasmodic herb, therefore it's good for normalizing the blood pressure. It's an adaptogen and it's sedative to the nervous system. So again, very good for blood pressure. Alfalfa is a very nutritive herb, and again, very particularly nutritive for the nervous system. Chamomile, we know how wonderful that is. And also included in this is rose. Rose petals are soothing for the digestion. They have a nervine effect. Generally, a digestive effect, promotes the functioning of the digestive tract as a whole. Aphrodisiac, hence the association with Valentine's Day. Anti-inflammatory and a heart tonic in uplifting the heart. Wild oats, as we know, are very nutritive for stamina in the nervous system. Hearty tea tastes very, very nice and is generally uplifting. The winter warmer tea is exactly as it's described. It's opening and warming, particularly for the peripheral circulation. In Galway, we have a 5-mile prom on the Atlantic Ocean, and I say to my patients, this is for when you come in after you've walked the prom. So cinnamon is circulation warming, particularly for the peripheries. It's soothing for the digestion, and it also has a very welcome effect of balancing the blood sugars. What this means is that in some way it seems to make simple and therefore usually processed and harmful sugars act in a way which is more in keeping with complex sugars. In other words, you don't get that direct spike of glucose immediately after taking sugars when cinnamon is added to them. It's got a very beneficial balancing effect, which makes it easier for the body to manage those kinds of sugars. So if you're having a piece of apple pie, it's always a good idea to put a great big sprinkling, more like a half a teaspoon rather than a pretty sprinkling. I actually use a flour sieve with great big holes when I put cinnamon on porridge or muesli or toast. Also, for those who like it, it's got a very pleasant taste. Taste is, of course, very personal. Elderflowers, we have that nice effect of the soothing or easing out the muscle tension, in addition to support for mucous membranes and an antiviral effect. So on those cold winter evenings, when you've been out walking in your rain gear, to come into a nice hot cup of winter warming tea is very pleasant. Hyssop makes the tea taste very nice, and it's also an antispasmodic expectorant. So you cough up and clear any mucus. Licorice is adaptogen, sweetening, and particularly supportive for the digestion and the adrenal glands. And rose hips contain vitamin C, antioxidants. They have an antiviral effect. They have a beneficial effect on blood pressure and on joint pain. Both of these actions are supported by some research. Ginger, again, very warming and soothing, opening up for the peripheral circulation. So this is a very, very pleasant winter tea to share with family and friends, and particularly if you've come in from the cold. I think this is the final blend, so you're doing great. This is the bitters blend, and I've left one of the best till last. Bitters are an effect that most of us need because of overstimulation of the adrenal gland, the thyroid gland, insufficient sleep, too much rich food, not enough good food, and poor digestion. So the bitters altogether act as an integrating effect on the total digestive tract, with a particular emphasis on the production of bile, the flow of bile, and the effect of bile, with additional stimulation of liver enzymes. So specifically the dandelion root, which you know all about by now. Gentian stimulates the liver and the pancreas, and it increases stomach acid, it promotes salivation, it's antispasmodic, anti-inflammatory, sedative, and antidepressant. In general, using a bitter cold herb like gentian would be contraindicated with gastritis or any heated conditions of the upper digestive tract. But because of the blend of this with the milk thistle, the meadowsweet, the peppermint and the silver birch, I rarely find that this is the case, but it is something to watch out for. The bitters blend can generally be tried by anybody within the normal general population. If it causes a digestive upset, it's just one that doesn't suit that person. So ginger has the digestive effect and stimulates the peripheral circulation. Milk thistle specifically supports phase 2 of liver detoxification. It proliferates liver regeneration. It's anti-allergy, anti-fibrotic, anti-inflammatory, immune modulating, and it helps reduce insulin sensitivity and blood glucose and lipid levels. Again, it is a very well researched herb, and combining it with the gentian and the dandelion root and the ginger, along with the following digestive herbs and astringent herbs, gives it a very balanced action. We've talked about the meadowsweet having a stomachic effect and an analgesic effect, and the peppermint having an antispasmodic effect, particularly on the digestion. And the silver birch, we think it's a traditional use of a herb, but we think it has a general astringent effect. You may also call this a hangovers bitter blend or an overindulgence bitters blend, because overall, I explain to people that if you know you're going to overindulge, it may be a special occasion, or it may be something where you don't have control of the food that you'll be eating. For instance, if you go away for a weekend, the bitters blend can help your digestion to cope with an overindulgent or unfamiliar foods. If you're going out for a good night out, for instance, take 5 mils before you go out of an evening, take 5 mils when you come home, and then take another 5 mils of the bitters blend in the morning. And where previously it took you up till 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock on a Sunday to recover from a Saturday night, you'll find that your body is much able to get into gear on the Sunday morning. So that one, you will have to try it and find out for yourself. But it's a nice one to end the blends on.